So it is very nice that you are all here for this webinar today. Enterprise LLM Hubs, Architectures and Agents. My name is Marcel. I am a computer scientist and I have actually done AI for a very long time, even when it was not cool yet. But the term artificial intelligence has been around since I think 1953. So that has been a long way of other types of AI applications that I had my hands in. And specifically in the last 4 years, I've been implementing at the moment over 50 AI applications that are using large language models, retrieval augmented generation, ingesting from existing enterprise systems, governance, authentication, authorization, the whole guardrail topic in different types of applications that are out there. I have founded a company that is building a platform called the entAIngine platform. If you want to put that platform in your head, it's a mix between Microsoft Copilot, N8, and ChatGPT, just on a very high level, but that's probably something that I will touch later on. And I have I've seen a lot of projects myself that I was working with customers in from the very start in the inception phase to the getting it into production phase. And what I'm doing here and I've been doing for quite a long time, is getting people in the space who are experienced, who have own projects, who have their own experience, is made into a community to which I'm periodically giving different types of webinars to just share a bunch of my insights with people in the same space. And that's exactly what we are going to do today. For everybody who's joining, this webinar is going to be recorded. So if you have to drop out for any reason at any point in time, don't worry. My wonderful assistant, Anna, will send you an email afterwards with a link to the recording. And if you would like to have the slides, also feel free to just send me as an email and we'll send the slides over. If you have at any point in time questions, there is a chat section over here that is already being used by Sebastian. Great. You want to do hundreds of AI projects in parallel, Sebastian. That is exactly the vibe that we are going for today and which we are going to touch upon today. But Sebastian already found the chat button. So if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to send it in there. We later will have also a little bit of bigger discussion where you can also unmute yourself. I'm trying to have my eye on my second screen to see all of your comments and get to them as soon as possible. If I miss some bear with me, then I hopefully will get to it in the end, but I'm trying to do my best. I'm not going to start the content of today about this is ChatGPT and it's a large language model and it helps you with XYZ. You have all been over this, you know what the applications are that we are talking about. But what I would like to touch upon today is very interestingly what ChatGPT has done to an organization on an organization level. And this has triggered disruptive change in business processes. And it has also triggered a lot of ideas and a lot of wishes and a lot of wishing the blue from the sky type of situations in organizations, which is something good, but also can sometimes evolve to a little bit of challenging. But we have evolved. We don't have the same discussions like 2 years anymore. We are now at a point where we need to talk about bringing AI actually from 90% of proof of concepts that fail, according to MIT, to having actually applications in production. For the first thing, I will touch upon during this webinar a bunch of different times. So for every larger type of organization that I've worked with in the last couple of years, I saw always the same patterns of how they were getting used to AI in their organization. So in the beginning, there's always, I call it the ChatGPT moment, where somebody gets their hand on a new innovation, in this case, a large language model. ChatGPT, of course, here not being standing only for the product, but also for other products in the same category, where people get their hands on something and they started to see the opportunities about how to use a new technology in a business. And a lot of organizations came very quickly to the conclusion and made a strategic decision very fast that they would like to explore this opportunity. And a lot of companies work in an exploration phase as the next step afterwards. I've just finished a project where I've worked with a major bank on their exploration phase. and we have built, I think, 8 applications within 4 months or so. It's about just validating how this new technology could fit into business and what it can deliver in terms of results. Because in the end, if we have a lot of effort and infrastructure, but we don't have a return on invest, in that it's pretty hard to make a case to roll out something like this. But luckily, in this exploration phase, we have a very easy metric to see what the impact of our solution is, and that is save time or capitalization on missed opportunity. The first thing being the one that is easier than the second thing, but usually two metrics where you can pretty easily put numbers to and where you can make pretty easily a case on return on investment. After the exploration phase, so we are coming into a little bit of a maturing case that I call sometimes the valley of dissolution, where people who got very quickly to build applications of LLMs fall into a little bit of a pit where a lot of problems are coming through, and where they see that often just a ChatGPT subscription is not enough. We have complex structures, we have proprietary data that we want to safely inject into workflows with large language models. Not all of the things should actually be in a chat interface, but maybe in an orchestration of a larger workflow that uses an LLM somewhere. We have the whole topic of governance, of authorization, of cloud security and onboarding and compliance, and all of these topics that make doing some innovative things more complex than it is, but that's how it is with every innovation. And that leads to the fourth stage, and that's the need for scaling the development of proof of concept and productive apps more to the surface that we have. And that's exactly what Sebastian was already asking today about, how to do hundreds of applications for a company and scale with them. The first AI wave, so everything that I would call, or I would put in the exploration phase, organizations have got their hands on the technology itself, played around, get acquainted with the fundamentals of using generative AI, found value, but also found the unit economics behind AI. You have to actually pay per use and not just some flat fee, unless you're using some sort of aggregator like a Copilot solution, but there are some unit economics involved to see a future for potential in the organization. And not only organizations as a whole, but also the individuals within an organization, the people that you have, found a position regarding AI. So understanding what it generally does and specifically what it does in their work life. There I have always the discussion augmentation versus replacement versus scalability. There's a whole bunch of people who say, I don't want to do this AI because in the end it will just replace my job, and then I can get fired because I'm not needed anymore. On the other hand, there's other people who see that as a jumping path for their career, and to say, I want to be an AI leader, I want to get these AI initiatives under my fingers, so to position myself and to climb up the ladder within my organization. And then there's a bunch of people somewhere in between these patterns. And before talking about any type of deep technical understanding of that, I think it's very important to realize that we as in an organization talking with people and we are dealing with people, and we have to get buy-in or onboarding or getting somebody on the train of what we are doing over here. When we're talking about people and about the organization itself, there is the question of how do we organize actually our organization to be able to deliver 10, 50, 100, 1,000 different types of small AI applications to our organization. And for that, we have basically 3 different methods. The one organizational method that I would like to start with is decentralized AI department. A decentralized AI department is usually a newly formed department that directly reports to some organizational unit pretty high up in the ladder of an organization. So usually on C-level, depending on how big your organization is, somewhere, but I'm talking about a leadership level. And usually leaders give to that AI department that it's headed by an AI head the mandate and the goal to implement AI applications. When we have such a setup, and we are coming in a situation where we have to serve a lot of people at the same point in time. These AI departments focus first on generative or generalized solutions. So your company chatbot for everybody. That's what a lot of these AI departments start with. That say, oh, is there a solution that we can buy and just roll out to everybody so that everybody is at least a little bit happy and we're not flooded by too much requirements from too many people at the same point in time. And that's usually where people get their hands into Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT enterprise subscriptions and all these type of things. Has, of course, a lot of pros to it, but has also a very large set of challenges to it. Meaning you are building often just very generalized solutions that don't have a return necessarily, because that's actually where this 90% of failed AI POCs comes from, overgeneralizing solution and just thinking users will just figure out magically how to use a chat interface to automate their whole work. It's not how it works. Then there's a lot of other contingencies that need to be met to get to that point. On the other hand, we also have then the problem when all of the departments that we have in our organizations are coming to a centralized AI department. This AI department is often overwhelmed with different inquiries that they can't potentially all solve, and we have a prioritization issue. The other extreme of that is the decentralized AI department saying, hey, we are here. Everybody in our organization can use AI. You just, in your departments, get it from your budget, purchase the tools that you want and use the tools that you want. Has the potential, has the benefits that everybody can work independently. We have low overhead, and we have actually agency from the different people in this organization. So when we think about a department, let's say this is a department for procurement, in an organization, the people in the procurement department have a in-depth knowledge about the use cases in procurement and know very well the requirements, what they need to make happen to make their lives easier. So you have a certain sense of agency in there that you wouldn't have when you're just pumping generalized solutions down the drain for everybody to use. But has also the downside that there's a wide growth of different solutions. Getting their hands on it financially and compliance-wise is here a little bit challenging in such a setup. And if you know that there's one extreme and there's another extreme, there's always a mixture between these two extremes, what I call the hybrid approach, where you have a centralized AI department that is there to purchase a bunch of different tools, but not overgeneralizing them, but is also working together with what I call AI champions within certain departments on specific use cases that require a specialized solution. You have here the pros that this is you have clear responsibilities, you can move fast, and you still have the sense of agency and you're working targeted towards something. But as usual, there's also challenges. There can be conflicts of interest and also conflicts of competencies in here. And there may be different departments when we have a lot together that still make it hard to scale. But the truth lies somewhere in between these solutions, and depending on how your organization is already structured, what your requirements are, either one of these solutions might make a lot of sense for you. This is talking about who is doing something with AI in an organization. Now let's talk about the boundaries of doing something with AI in an organization. I'm doing a lot of consulting work, and I'm often being contracted to create an AI framework for a company. Not talking now about the technology framework, but a framework in which a company can do into a standardized level of quality of compliance applications within them. And that's usually a frame that you see here in gray that has boundary elements to it, naming organization and governance, ethics, compliance and regulation, and quality and risk together. There's being the literal frame that is tying together our AI applications, or AI-powered applications that we have. Yeah, AI-powered applications are working on some sort of technological framework for intelligence, but it's not only LLMs, it's not the models itself, but it's a lot in the orchestration. as I said in the beginning, about orchestrating retrieval augmented generation pipelines, about attaching to existing data stores, how to integrate into workflows, make calls to existing systems, and host it all in an infrastructure that is within the boundary of these four high-level boundary elements. Organization, we already talked about, governance too, ethics. There's clear guidelines on what you can and what you cannot do in AI. I cannot go now over all of these today, but we'll have some material for you to get into that. Compliance and regulation. There's external regulation requirements that you have to fulfill in the European Union, the AI Act, but also GDPR and other things. And you have internal compliance-related information that you will take a look into. And that's a very important thing, and that's why it's here on the right side, is quality and risk. Traditional organizations have a hard time getting their way of thinking around that a large language model, when you prompt it 2 times with the same prompt, you will get slightly different answers. That's just due to large language models being models and not deterministic pieces of logic that you have in there. And that can pose challenges to your use cases. So this kind of paradigm is very important to incorporate in your application building. And that's why the last part of this AI framework that I'm always recommending to people is the monitoring and evaluation framework. Not only about quality, but I said it also initially, we also have here unit costs, right? Because if we are for every, let's say we are the procurement department and we need to scan through 100 suppliers that made offers to supply us with, I don't know, catering after we had a tender out there. And if these documents are hundreds of pages, we are talking here now about unit costs that are not neglectable. So not a fraction of a cent anymore, but actually a couple of euros, a couple of dollars per case that you have to account for. Unit economics is something that I recommend in terms of cost. Have a look into as soon as you have the first proof of concept that is qualitatively working, and not saying, oh, this is something for later, this will go out of some sort of central budget. Eventually somebody will looking into the cost that you are causing by using an LLM for everything and saying, yeah, is this really the amount of money that we should put in that? It doesn't make sense to use an LLM for everything. It makes, and that's why I'm always advocating for multi-step orchestration pipelines to do some parts where you need to actually interpret text with an LLM. But for stuff that you can do with an LLM, but that you can also do with a code, for example, format some data or bring it to some sort of JSON format. You can do that with an LLM, but you can also do that by having a script that is factor 100 cheaper in terms of unit costs. Of course, that means in the development time. So there's somewhere equilibrium between costs, between time saved, and between effort that you have to make that happen. And these things are what I call the company AI framework that we have to think about. Quality in here is a topic that gets often overlooked. Keep your hands on that. And I say, Juha, we have a specific course actually that goes, I think the section on quality is over an hour alone in this course. Anna, you might want to link our Udemy course over here, where we're going deeper into quality sections, because I literally could talk about an hour only about quality. But today we are trying to cover a little bit more topics, but happy to supply you with more information, Juha, that hopefully helps you a little bit. In terms of scaling to 100 different applications, like we said in the beginning, we have to think about what are actually the applications that we want to look into and that we want to take on in our to-do list, because we all have just a limited amount of time and resources that we can spend on these type of things. And that's where I distinguish between generalized solutions and specialized solutions. I touched on it before, but I think here it's very important. Generalized solutions are not specific to a certain use case, but can be used across different use cases, but require work in terms of prompt engineering, in terms of configuration from users themselves. So Microsoft Copilot is the best example for that. I'm not saying it's the best generalized solution over there. I'm just saying that it's a very good example because Microsoft literally tells you, okay, here is all of your data. It's already in our cloud. You can just link your data to a chat and then you write your prompt and then it will do something with that data in the chat. Generally, with these atomic principles in mind, you can do anything. But often the qualities remain all under the generalization of these type of things. For example, if you have large amounts of data with Microsoft Copilot, getting the right amount of data and reasoning between different information pieces across different documents is not the easiest to do, even though you could generally just prompt over there, but then you get the quality that you get. And that's because this is tweaked to cover any type of situation, but none very deeply. Examples like this is like my company GPT. There's a lot of organizations that started to just get the OpenAI API, put their logo on it, and say this is now my company GPT, and you can chat, you can do whatever you want with it. But that's a typical example of a generalized application. But specialized solutions require more advanced orchestrations, often multi-step, multi-model orchestrations. I am not telling you that there is a model that is the best for all use cases and that you should use in any case. That was maybe like that when ChatGPT came to the market, but we are now 3 years in and we are talking about a completely multipolar LLM world where we have different suppliers. We have OpenAI with all of their GPT models. We have Google with the Gemini models. We have Meta with the Llama models. We have DeepSeek. We have so many different models that all are good in one thing. There is not one model that is best in all of the dimensions that you could look in yourself. I give you a bunch of examples for specialized solutions. I work right now with a real estate appraisal company, and that real estate appraisal company has per year 14,000 real estate appraisals that they need to write. And prompting does not really work with a generalized solutions because LLMs cannot tell you that is a bakery in a town and your house in a town are exactly 1.5 kilometers apart because LLMs have no sense of actual distance because they're literally just statistical interference machines and they have no capability to do out of the box distance calculations. So here it required for us in that case to build actually an application that yes uses an LLM, but also uses in this case the Google Maps API to get informations about the surroundings of a certain object that is in a part of an appraisal, where we need to see how many kindergartens are within a 1 kilometer radius of that specific thing. So we are using there a piece of deterministic data software, and we are combining it with a large language model to produce text as an output. We have also use cases in research and pharmaceutical research where the same thing is there. But these are very specialized solutions. And when we think about these type of solutions over here, on the x-axis from how generalized versus how specialized they are, with me giving you here the two extremes. So the company GPT is probably the most generalized solution that you can get, and a very specific business process implemented with an in-depth orchestration pipeline, like the appraisal work, is probably the most specialized thing that we would expect. And we have done here something in the middle. There's always something in the middle. So use cases that you can reuse across different, or applications that you can use across different use cases, but not completely for all of them. We see here that, of course, the more specialized your solution is, the lower the number of potential applications for use cases per solution is there. So if I'm building a specialized solution to create real estate appraisals, then there is one use case for it, and that is writing real estate appraisals. Whereas with having a company GPT, I can use the company GPT to compile emails, to write reports, to, if I prompt correctly, of course, to do summaries, to do a whole bunch of different things. But on the other hand, when you think about the impact of the individual solution, the more specialized your solution is, the higher the impact of it is, or the higher potential impact it is. Because here, writing a real estate appraisal in this case is 15 hours, And if we can automate just half of that, we have solved per case in 7.5 hours. Whereas here, summarize my email is maybe something that you have, I don't know, 3 times a day, but you only have 10 seconds that you are saving with it. That's the other one. What I have seen is that the early stages of building this kind of company, AI hubs, focused on these type of use cases. But where the real value is, and that's what a lot of these people are realizing, is in this side where it becomes more and more specialized. So the core challenge is how can we build these type of specialized solutions at scale? And that's where I would like to just tell you a little bit about where I'm doing. So don't worry, these are not the sales slides over here. I just want to give you a little bit of context about what it is that I'm doing. I've said in the beginning, my company builds a platform called entAIngine, Enterprise AI Process Engine. That is basically a combination of a no-code interface to build workflows and agent interfaces with chatbots to create other types of use cases. Basically, the platform has different components that are modular and that can be combined to create applications very fast. And that's the idea and my recommendation for you, how I recommend how to scale. So mind if you are buying my platform or not. The no-code app building aspect of that is a very important one. So if you can make your people that you are serving as internal customers also developers of a solution, you have saved a lot of time for you internally. The citizen developer approach is something that I recommend that is not suited for all of the applications, but with LLMs, I would say the entrance barrier to this type of citizen developer approach is a lot lower than the traditional low-code application development approaches that we have. I will show you a little bit about, this is the architecture of the platform that I am using to build all of these use cases for, so that you have here a little bit of an understanding about that. On the very top of that application lies a whole bunch of different front ends. So we have what we call the studio interface, which I am happy to show you in a second. I have it open here somewhere. The studio interface is basically there to create applications very fast and define workflows standardized. And it automatically generates applications for chat apps, for process apps, for search applications, and for what we call editor applications, using the same standard interface for everything. And in addition, for specialized use cases, there's also the opportunity that we are making API calls to the same endpoints that these standardized interfaces here make, what we call the backend of our entAIngine platform. For you, if you build your own AI hub, this would be your REST interface of your own AI hub. In this backend, there is user management services because you need to be aware of the authorization regarding data, regarding workflows, regarding permissions that you have in there, and that needs to come from somewhere. We're using Auth0 to connect to existing OpenID Connect workflows for that so that we can just get the permissions out there, and to feed basically in what we call here the core, which is the AI engine. The AI engine has on the very right side, you see here, an AI model connection hub, where we have one interface where we can get all of the LLMs that are out there hooked up to all of our company applications. So if we want to use for one application the OpenAI models, it's connected over there. If we want to use AI open over Microsoft, it's there. If we want to use the Google family of models, the Gemini models over there, it's here. If we want to use open source models, we can either deploy them in our own infrastructure or we can use them over there. The point is that for application building, standardizing the way of how you are interacting with all these different models makes a lot of sense, because that enables you just to plug in and plug out different types of applications, different types of models to your application. These applications here are fed into the orchestration engine that is being conducted over here. And the orchestration engine takes what we call process templates from different databases. The other two parts that the orchestration engine here interfaces is a service for retrieval augmented generation, because a lot of the use cases that you will have will use some sort of retrieval augmented generation on your company data. And a lot of the use cases that you will have also as an output of what you are doing have to make a call to an existing system and do something with this existing system. And we do that with Lambda functions basically to call the systems. And we have done over 50 applications until we came to this at the moment final, so there's no way as a final architecture, but to this final increment of our current platform. And that's just information that I wanted to share with you, because that's the complexity if you want to build your own AI hub in-house. It's not as easy as just, oh, here's an open AI key. There's so many things that you need to think about, that you need to monitor, that you need to integrate, that it becomes wild growth if you're not having something streamlined. So if you are building an AI hub in yourself, take this word of advice. If you say you don't want to build it yourself, you can purchase my platform if you want to, because we are enabling that to be deployed on premise if that's needed. The number here needs to be updated. This is outdated, so we are over 50 right now. My learnings that I would like to share with you here last is there is no one model to rule it all. There are certain models that are good for tasks and weak for different tasks. Gemini 2.5 Pro is, for example, very good with reasoning of long text. Perplexity is far superior in web search related tasks to ChatGPT, for example. So I know that there's this web search tool use thing in ChatGPT. If you compare that to Perplexity, ChatGPT is utter trash. Perplexity is really good for that. Again, I have no affiliation with either of these companies, so I don't want to push something for you. I'm just telling you from my experience. People often don't understand the difference between standalone tools and the models behind them, and the way the way that they're differentiating from each other. There is very rarely a need for fine-tuning models. I say this very, very polemically over here, but it's actually true. A lot of people think, oh, I need my knowledge within an LLM, so let's just train the model with my knowledge. Yes, you can do that, but the thing that an LLM out of the box has in terms of problems is being able to cite where information is coming from. Because the information that you just get from an LLM out of the box, if you say, oh, cite it for me, the citation is being made up and mostly hallucinated. Often it's hallucinated correctly, but it doesn't change the fact that this is hallucinated. And that's also the problem that you have when you have fine-tuning models. But if you're using retrieval augmented generation, if you're using a RAG pipeline with a vector database with embeddings behind it, you can actually cite and quote pretty consistently. If you are locking yourself into one vendor, you might have a dependency that will come back to bite you in the foot. Like I'm a partner of everybody. I'm in the Microsoft partner program and the Google partner program and the Perplexity partner program. There's not a huge barrier of entry to become a partner of that. Take that with a grain of salt. But if you're saying, oh, we are Microsoft customers and we will just use Microsoft stack, yes, you can do that. But be aware that you are then restrained by the features that are there available within that stack. Orchestration is often more critical than the model itself. People come often to the conclusion, oh, the output of my application was not nice, so the problem must be the model. The model must not be good enough. In most of the cases, that's not the case. In most of the cases, it's the prompt, and actually having a set of different prompts combined with calls to other systems that are not LLMs, but that can, now again, the example of the Google Maps API, that can give you deterministic data that you can ingest in your phone. There is a lot of value to be gained by focusing on the orchestration and not just on the model. And often these orchestrations are multi-step, multi-model applications to approach for specific tasks. And be aware that technology is often not the bottleneck of an AI project. Data privacy, governance, and everything else that comes with the organizational factor is often more. And I have seen your question. I will get to it in a second. And one thing to learn, if you are in charge of some sort of, I call it AI hub, whatever you want to call it in your organization, I think you understand the concept. Often you are flooded by internal requests for specialized step that you can't handle, and it is delivering 20% solutions. And this is actually another factor where these 90% of AI POCs within companies never see the light of day again comes from. Yeah? And by basically just contracting people that consider themselves experts because they are in one of the big consultancy companies, but actually do not have the in-depth knowledge about what they are doing. That's another problem, but that's something for, yeah, for another day. That concludes my material that I have prepared for you, and I will go into questions and answer section and a bit more of discussion right now. But I would like to leave the last slide with me because what I am actually doing in my day-to-day life, I offer consultancy services for people like you, for soundboarding, for strategy, for architectural sessions, but also for building these type of applications if you do not have the capacity. I have a team myself, and we have a huge partner network to build applications mostly on our platform, but also without it. If you are interested in that, feel free to book a meeting. There's a QR code for each of those. If you would like to try out our software, then feel free. We are also selling our software white labeled. So if you, I can actually show you in a second how our software looks like. If you would like to put your white label on it, then feel free to do. If you want to learn more about strategy, frameworks, and hubs, we have a Udemy course for that. It's not super long, it's 4 hours. So if you would like to use me a little bit more as your podcast input for maybe a good evening jog, I am more than happy to give that link to you. If you just want to stay connected, this is my LinkedIn. And if you have any other questions, there is my email address.